Why does it do that? I don't understand, because it's on my mind right there. It's not working. How do I make it be public? Public. Okay, here we go. For some reason it was on unlisted instead of public, so I think that was the problem. So I hope you guys are having a good St. Patrick's Day. I make cards, of course you guys know, so here's one of my St. Patrick's Day cards. So I thought I would just share a bit of Irish luck with you guys before we get started. So we're going to start with 9.3. This is the law of cosines. And make sure that you have paper and pencil and that you're writing when I'm writing, because that will probably be the best for you guys. Alright, so this is what you use when you have side angle side and side side side. And if you hear any beating noise in the background, that is my cat beating his food bowl because he's hungry. And he thinks he can get food out of it if he hits it. So that's what that is. Alright, so we're going to write down these formulas. You will need to memorize these for your test. And I usually just memorize one of them. And then I just kind of change the letters out for the other ones. Okay, so I would definitely memorize these. Let me zoom in a little bit better here. And like I said, I would memorize one of them and then just fill in the other letters because they're basically the same thing. It's just instead of using C here, they switched to B and then they switched to A. But everything is pretty much in the same spot. All right, so the first section that we're going to do is for 17 through 32. All right, so this problem says A is 2, B is 3, and capital C is 60 degrees. So when you're doing this, because they give you degrees, you're going to have to keep checking your calculator back and forth, but you're going to want to make sure your calculator is in degrees. So I'm going to make up my triangle here. So here's A, little a, capital B, little b, capital C, little c. So here's my 60 degrees, little b is 3, and little a is 2. So you can see, I know I'm not going to use law of sines. I don't have anything diagonal here. So I'm looking for diagonals and I've got nothing. So that's how I remember to use law of cosines. I really don't remember side angle side and side side side. I just know no diagonals, can't use it. Okay, so to know which formula to use, you want to look and see where's your degrees at. So the degree is at C, so we're going to use the formula that begins with the C. So C squared equals A squared plus B squared, which isn't too bad to remember because it's kind of like the Pythagorean theorem. Minus 2AB cos of capital C. So just remember, this is kind of like A squared plus B squared equals C squared. This is the one I usually remember right here. All right, we're going to plug in our numbers. So A squared would be 2 squared. B squared would be 3 squared. Should put these in parentheses. A is 2. B is 3 cos of 60. And you guys let me know if I'm going too fast. All right, so 2 squared would be 4. 3 squared would be a 9. And then I would just type this thing in a calculator. Make sure that your calculator is in degrees, a minus, so we're good. Okay, I'm going to leave the minus there, so I'm just going to type in this part right there. So 2 times 2 times 3 cos 60. Okay, so that gives me 6. I didn't think that would come out so nice. Okay, so 4 plus 9 is 13. 13 minus 6 would be 7. Because this is a length and you can't have a negative length, because normally when you square root something it's plus and a minus. So you can just ignore the negative on these. So it's just the square root of 7. All right, now from here, I'm going to plug that in up there, that's the square root of 7. To get your other ones, we do have diagonals now, but if you did law of sines, remember yesterday how we had to check double answers? You would have to do that. So we're going to stick with law of cosines because then we don't have to check all of the solutions and make sure we don't have a double triangle or anything like that. So I'm going to find capital A by using the A formula. So A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos of capital A. Okay, so we are going to, well, we got a couple choices because we want to find capital A. So we could plug everything in and then deal with all the numbers. Or we could rearrange the equation to solve for capital A. It doesn't really matter what you choose. It's just, you know, however you want to deal with this is how you can deal with it. I think if you did solve for capital A by itself, then in theory you could use that formula and the reduce to solve for capital B. So it might be good to just do that anyway. So I want to get rid of B and C. So to move B squared and C squared, I'm going to subtract those off from both sides. So I get A squared minus B squared minus C squared equals negative 2BC cos of capital A. All right, now I need to get rid of the negative, the 2, the B, and the C. So these are all timesing, and the opposite of timesing would be dividing. So we're going to divide off negative 2, B, and C off of both sides. Okay, so I get A squared minus B squared minus C squared divided by negative 2BC equals cos of capital A. All right, now again, I have the cos on there and I want to get A by itself. So how do I get rid of a cos? I need to do an inverse on each side. So what A would really be is the cos inverse of A squared minus B squared minus C squared all over negative 2BC. All right, and now all I need to do is plug in the numbers that I know. So I have the cos inverse. A is going to be 2, so this is 2 squared. B is 3. A little c is the square root of 7 squared. I'm just plugging these in. Minus 2. B is 3 again. And C is the square root of 7. Give you guys a second to write stuff down. All right, and now we're going to want to simplify this kind of as best as we can. Okay, so 2 squared would be 4. 3 squared would be 9. And the square root of 7 squared would just be plain old 7. Okay, and on the bottom, negative 2 times 3 would be negative 6 square root of 7. Okay, so on the top, I have a negative 12 divided by a negative 6 square root of 7. And I think at this point, usually you would move the square root from the bottom to the top, but since I have to do a cos inverse anyway, you might as well just type this into the calculator. Now, the one thing you do want to deal with is 2 negatives are going to make a positive, so you can just ignore the 2 negatives and just turn them as pluses when you type it in. Because you don't really want to have the 2 negatives when you're typing that in. It's just going to maybe confuse the calculator. All right, so we got a second cos, 12 divided by 6. Oh, I hit the wrong button there. All right, let's try this again. All right, cos 12 divided by 6 square root 7. Yeah, what did I do wrong? I bet I have to have a times right there. Maybe. Times the square root of 7. Do I have enough parentheses? 1, 2. Domain error. Didn't think it would matter. Well, what if we do reduce this more? Maybe it does matter. I didn't think it would, but maybe it does. Okay, so we got the cos inverse, and if I reduce 12 in the 6, that would be 2 over the square root of 7. I really don't see why this would make a difference. Okay, and then if I times top and bottom by the square root of 7, that would be cos inverse 2 square root 7 over 7. All right, let's try it that way. I really didn't think you would have to reduce, but maybe you do. 2 square root 7 divided by 7. Well, I don't understand why that worked once you reduce it. Okay, and we get 40.89. Are you guys still with me here? All right, so apparently the key for getting that to work was you had to reduce it. I didn't think you would have to, but apparently you do. Okay, so now that I have this angle here, which is 40.9, let's put that in on our triangle up here. 40.89 degrees. You should be asking yourself, well, how many degrees are in a triangle? 180. Oh, here we go. If you put parentheses around the denominator, it would have worked the first way. Yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah, I bet you're right. Yeah, let's look. I bet you're right, Sophia. I bet I needed parentheses in the denominator. Yep. 6 square root 7. Yep, that was it. I just needed parentheses on the bottom. I was thinking, I was like, that seemed like a lot of extra work there for nothing. Yep, put parentheses on there when you go to type it in. Good catch. All right, so to find the last one, I would definitely use the 180 degree rule. So 180 minus your 40.89 minus your 60 is going to give you angle B. And angle B will be 79.1 degrees. Maybe that's so we can read it. Okay, so our official answers, we have C right there. Angle B is 79.1 and A is 40.89. So those are all the answers. All right, so I'm going to turn the page now. And then we're going to do a problem where we have all of the sides. Okay, so I have that this one is number 31 in the book. So A equals 10, B equals 8, and C equals 5. So we're going to start with drawing our triangle on here. You can label them however you want. So there's A, here's B. So B equals 8, and then we have capital C here and little c here, which is 5. So when they give you the problem, all of the lowercase letters are around the triangle. All of the capitals would be the degrees on the insides. So they want you to find capital A, capital B, and capital C. So I would use that formula that we had just made on the last page, which was right here. That one right there, can we see it? Okay, so I would use this one here, so it's a lot less work because we've already converted it, and then we can kind of use that one on the other problems also, so it's not as much work. So we're going to start with A equals the cosinverse. And that was A squared minus B squared minus C squared on the top. All over negative 2BC. And I just copied that from the previous page. All right, we're going to plug in the numbers that we know. So cos inverse, A is 10. B is 8, and C is 5. Okay, B was 8, and C was 5. Okay, well, this one should be a lot easier because there's no square roots involved, so that's a lot nicer. Okay, so 10 squared would be 100. 8 squared would be 64. 5 squared would be 25. Okay, on the bottom, 2 times 5 would be 10. And 10 times 8, what? How is that? Would be 80. Yeah, negative 80. All right, and then we just need to do a little bit of subtracting on the top. So 100 minus 64 minus 25 is going to give us 11. All right, we just got to type that into the calculator. All right, so when I type that in, 97.9 degrees. And I just typed it in with the negative on the bottom and it works okay. Just use the normal division button when you do this. All right, so that is A, 97.9. And then it doesn't really matter if you find B or C, because you just need to find one of the others. And then once you find that one, then you just do 180 minus that minus the other one, and that gives you your third side. So it really doesn't matter the order that you find those in. Okay, so we can swap these out. So instead of an A, let's find capital C. So everywhere I see an A, I'm going to replace it with a C, and everywhere I see C, I'm going to replace it with an A. So cos inverse. So there's my A is going to get swapped out with a C. The B's are going to stay, and the C is going to turn into an A. And the C turns into an A. All right, and then we're going to plug in the numbers we know now. So C squared would be 5 squared, B squared would be 8 squared, A squared would be 10 squared, which would be 100. All right, so just plugging in those numbers. So I got 25 minus 64 minus 100. Okay. So 2 times 8 would be 16, times 10 would be negative 160. All right, we just want to figure out the top there. So that gives me negative 1. Change those to positives, and we'll just type that in. So second cos 139 divided by 160. Okay, 29 point, you would probably go 2 digits, I guess, 69. And that's capital C. So that equals C. This one was A. And then all I have to do to find B is 180 minus 97.9 minus 29.69. And that gives me 52.42 degrees. And that would be your answer for B. Okay, so that's pretty much it for 9.3. I did want to go over 9.4 also. It's not very long either. So 9.4 talks about areas of a triangle. So our formula for area of a triangle is normally 1/2 base times the height. All right, so I'm going to draw my triangle on here. So this would normally be our height. This would be our base. This would be our A. And then this can be our C. And this is a 90 degree. So if I looked at this C right here, then I can look and I say, okay, that's my opposite and that's my hypotenuse. If I just look at this half of the triangle here. So this is the opposite, this is the hypotenuse. So what trig function has O and H in it? That would be sine. So sine of capital C would be H over A. And we want to solve here for H, so I can times both sides by A. And so A sine of capital C equals our height. And now I can plug this H into that H into our formula. So now the area of a triangle is 1/2, and we have our base here, and then our H is A sine C. Now for me to remember this, you will need to memorize this. I like to put it in order because A comes first in the alphabet, so it's easier for me to memorize it if I memorize it as 1/2 AB sine of C. So I remember it. This is the A, the B, and the C. They come first in the alphabet, and sine's in the middle, and you have your 1/2. So it's kind of like you're doing your ABCs. So this is the formula that I usually remember in this format. So you will need to memorize this. Let's see if I got a mini example problem trying to see what it matches in the book. Okay, so I think this problem would be for 5 through 12. And these should go pretty quick because this is fairly simple. So A equals 8, B equals 6, and capital C equals 30 degrees. And all they want you to do is find the area. So like I said, you would just use this formula. It will go super quick. So your area is 1/2, your A is 8, your B is 6, and then you have sine of 30. And then you can just type that in as one big string in your calculator, and when you do, it will give you that the answer is 12. So those should go really, really quick when you have to do those problems. All right, here's another formula that you'll have to remember. Okay, this is called Heron's formula. And you want to use his formula when you know 3 sides of the triangle. So the previous formula is good for when you know an angle. This one's what you do when you don't know any of the angles at all. All right, so the formula is the area equals the square root, and S will be for side. So you have S minus A, S minus B, and S minus C. And you'll have to calculate that S by using the sides that you know. So it's 1/2 the first side length plus the second side length plus the last side length. I would make sure that you know this formula too. I believe there was one problem like that on the test. All right, so this is going to be for 13 to 24. So A equals 4, B equals 5, and C equals 7, and they want you to find the area. And on here, you really don't need to draw the triangle because we're not finding any of the angles or anything. We just want to find the area. So we're going to start with, we need to find this S first. So the S is 1/2 times 4 plus 5 plus 7. Okay, so 4 plus 5 would be 9. 9 plus 7 would be 16. Half of 16 would be 8. So our S is going to be 8. All right, now we're going to take that 8 and we'll plug it into this formula up here. So this is going to be 8, and 8 minus 4, and then 8 minus 5, and then 8 minus 7. So this really isn't bad. If you want, you could just type everything underneath the square root as a big string. Might be quicker to do it that way instead of doing 8 minus 4, then 8 minus 5, and then 8 minus 7, then times them all together. Probably just be as easy to just type it in like this. So I'm going to type it in as one big string. I'm going to leave the square root out for now and just type everything else. So that gives me 96. So this is the square root of 96. And then you could either get that as a decimal, and it's going to depend on what the test looks like, or if it's in perfect radical form, then you will need to do a tree, and you will need to break that down. So 3 and 32. And 32 breaks down as 8 and 4. 8 breaks down as 4 and 2. And 4 breaks down as 2 and 2. Okay, so we got a set of 2's here, a set of 2's there, and we're left over with a 2 and a 3. All right, so 2 times 2 will come on the outside, so that will be 4. And 3 times 2 will get left over, 4 square root of 6. All right, and then I had 2 word problems for you because they had 2 of them as homework assignments. So first one is number 37. And that will be on page 706. So this is number 37 on page 706. All right, so it says the dimensions of home plate at any major baseball stadium are shown. Find the area of home plate. So here's the diagram. So we have 12 here, 12 there, 8.5 on the sides, and 17 on the bottom. So I would separate this out into the different shapes so that you know what you're dealing with. So I'm dealing with a rectangle and a triangle. So I would find probably the area of a rectangle first because it's going to be the easiest. I know if this is 17, the bottom of this one up here is going to be 17 also. So we have the area of the rectangle, and that's going to be length times width. So 8.5 times 17. And if I times those out together, that gives me 144.5. And then I'll need to find the area of this triangle up here, and we're going to use Heron's formula since I know all the sides, but I don't know any of the degrees. So your S is going to be 1/2, and it will be 12 plus 12 plus 17. All right, so 12 plus 12 would be 24. 24 plus 17 would be 41. So this is going to be 1/2 times 41. And half of 41 would be 20.5. All right, so then our area of the triangle would be the square root 20.5. And then it doesn't matter which side you start with first, just I go around in order in a circle so that I know I hit all the sides and I'm not duplicating or anything. So 20.5 minus 12, 20.5 minus 12, and then 20.5 minus 17. And again, I would probably just type everything except for the square root out in your calculator. Okay, so that gives me the square root 5183.9375. I'll just leave all the digits in there since when you go to square root, if you keep all the digits, it'll be even more accurate than if you rounded to 1 or 2, it'll be a little bit less. So I'm just going to keep them all. There wasn't that many anyway. So the square root 5183.9375 would be 71.99. All right, so then our total area, you just add the two that we have together. So 71.99 plus 144.5. I'll just type that in. That gives me 216.5 when you go to round. 260.49, that'll round to 0.5. And your units, because this is area and it was inches, inches squared. All right, and then we got one more problem to do, and this one is number 33. It's also a word problem. So it says, find the area of the segment shaded of a circle whose radius is 8 feet formed by a central angle of 70 degrees. And then they give you a picture. So they give you a circle. And the picture goes like this. All right, so this is shaded in blue. And it has, the side is 8 feet as the radius, and this is 70 degrees. Okay, so when they say find the area of the segment, they mean the shaded area. So they want the area of that piece right there. So what we have to do first is we have to find the area of the sector. So we got to find the area of a sector, and then we have to find the area of the triangle and subtract the two off. So the area of a sector would be from here to here, including the outside part. So it includes the triangle and the shaded part. And you probably don't remember, but the area of a sector was in chapter 7.1. And that's what makes this problem so difficult, is because we've done it, but it was like January. So that was chapter 7.1. And the formula for area of a sector was 1/2 the radius squared times theta. Alright, so the big thing you need to know about this one also is theta has to be in radians. You can't use it in degrees. So we'll put a little reminder note so we don't forget that. So now the problem is how do I convert 70 degrees to radians? So we'll have to convert that. So 70 degrees, and your formula is 180 over pi. So we just need to take 70 and divide it by 180. If you just do the rules with the zeros, you don't even need the calculator. So the zeros are gone. So that's 7 pi over 18. And r would be the radius. So you know the radius is 8. So we're going to just plug this stuff in now. So this is 1/2 times 8 squared times 7 pi over 18. And when you're calculating this, you want to type the whole thing in and get you a decimal. Alright, so we got 1/2. I'll use the ABC button for my 1/2 times 8 squared times 7 pi divided by 18. Okay, so that gives me 39.1 because the 9 would round up. So 39.1. All right, and then I need to find the area of the triangle. So the area of the triangle, well, I have my side and a degree. If this side is 8, this side up here also has to be 8 because they're both radiuses. So this is 1/2 AB sine of capital C. We'll plug in the numbers we know. So our A is going to be 8, the B is going to be 8, and your C is 70 degrees. Okay, so 1/2 of 8 would be 4, and 4 times 8 would be 32. So that would be 32 sine of 70. We'll plug that in and get a number. Okay, so that gives me 30.1. So now all I have to do to find the little sliver, since this was the entire thing, I'll just take that and subtract off the triangle, and that will give me the shaded area. So we would have 39.1 minus 30.1, and that's basically 9 feet squared, because this is units is feet. All right, so that is 9.3 and 9.4 together. All right, so we're going to take a break, and I want you guys to work on all the homework assignments from up till 9.4. At some point, we're going to have to try to coordinate how you guys can meet to do a lab. We can start thinking about that next week, I guess. But I think for the rest of this week, that'll be the last live video. And then I think we should try to pick up Monday with doing 9.5. Okay, so does that sound good to you guys? Let me know in the comments. if meeting at Monday, we'll try to meet at 12:30 again, but if they make us go to school, if they make the teachers report, then I'll probably have to adjust that time because I think it's easier for me to record at home since I have all of the setup at home already. So you guys let me know, does it sound good that we meet Monday for another live stream on 9.5? Okay, good. Got it good from Cameron. Does that sound good with you, Sophia? We'll try to do Monday at 12:30, but like I said, if they make teachers report, I think I'd rather almost do it later in the day so I can be home to have my equipment. I don't have to drag my equipment into school too. Okay, so that's what we'll plan. You guys work on your assignments. Monday we'll do another live stream on 9.5, and then we'll try to have to figure out how to meet to do your labs, or you guys can coordinate to do your labs together online. We're going to have to figure that stuff out as we go. I don't know how long this is going to last. Alright, so we're going to end this, and I will see you guys on Monday, and if anything pressing comes up, I'll text you guys all on the Remind app. So I hope that you're finding that this is helpful, that we can kind of still continue class on. Alright, so you guys take care, and I will get back to you on Monday then.